Welcome back to Dr. Judi Online. I'm excited to continue reading from Peaches, Womanist Thoughts on Finding Peace, Overcoming Peril, and Tapping Power. And I'm especially excited today because today is Juneteenth, June 19th, 2020. Thank you, Jesus. So we stopped off on page 25. Part 3 of Chapter 1 from Peaches. Womanists. Peaches in the salad bowl. Like peaches, we as black women are unique, sweet, sometimes tart, great combined with other ingredients, and superb alone. Shirley Chisholm once said that America is not a melting pot, rather it is a salad bowl. It would be ideal to some if we all melted and blended together. I see black women in America even outside of the salad bowl, unless of course you put peaches in your salad. Yes, in the context of melting pots and salads, as black women, we are the peaches. Sometimes that is not part of the archetypal North American tossed salad. Something extra special. Peaches alone are great. I am a peach in a salad. I am the peach. America is the salad. I don't need to be there, but I am different. I add value and uniqueness and flavor. I add texture, diversity. Even as peaches with different values, worldviews, needs, and experiences, each peach is different. Some are nectarines and apricots. For the sake of unity, we can call each other peaches rather than bitches, depending on the circumstances. Let's start the trend. Peaches. Peach power. Love is power. Power to the peaches. Like any other group, the Black Girls Club is not a monolithic group. As you know, we may have similar features, hair textures, and origins, but each of us has different personalities, temperaments, challenges, opportunities, and goals. Yes, we're different. However, we have to start somewhere for the sake of unity and individual and collective upward mobility. In her book, Feminist Theory, From Margin to Center, Bell Hooks explains the way black women have been marginalized within the context of feminism. Consequently, womanism has been used to describe the experience of the black feminist, which is in a category of its own. The definitions Alice Walker presents in her book, In Search of Our Mother's Gardens, Womanist Prose, are helpful for this discussion, for our demystification, for our survival, for our unity, and for our surthrival. Womanist. These are the 4 definitions she offers. Womanist, number 1, from womanish, opposite of girlish, i.e. frivolous, irresponsible, not serious. A black feminist or feminist of color. From the black folk expression of mothers to female children, you acting womanish, i.e. like a woman. Usually referring to outrageous, audacious, courageous, or willful behavior. Wanting to know more and in greater depth than is considered good for one. Interested in grown-up doings, acting grown up, being grown up. Interchangeable with another black folk expression, you trying to be grown. Responsible, in charge, serious. Number 2, also a woman who loves other women sexually and or non-sexually. Appreciates and prefers women's culture, women's emotional flexibility, values tears as a natural counterbalance of laughter, and women's strength. Sometimes loves individual men sexually and or non-sexually, committed to survival and wholeness of entire people, male and female. Not a separatist, except periodically for health. Traditionally universalist, as in, Mama, why are we brown, pink, and yellow, and our cousins are white, beige, and black? Answer, well, you know the colored race is just like a flower garden with every color flower represented. Traditionally capable, as in, Mama, I'm walking to Canada. Mama says that wouldn't be the first time. Number 3, loves music, loves dance, loves the moon, loves the spirit, loves food and love and roundness, loves struggle, loves the folks, loves herself regardless. Number 4, womanist is to feminist as purple is to lavender. Where womanism and feminism merge and overlap. This book specifically addresses the survival needs, cultural experiences, and goals of Black women who were born in America as ancestors of slaves. I believe in plurality, diversity, and more love. At the same time, white women, many of whom have owned land since the 1600s, and those from islands and other countries who choose to come to America, are not necessarily in the same demographic as those for whom I write this book. At the same time, many of my theories are universal. It is my hope that they may be beneficial to all women in some way. Thank you to all women and men, Black, white, red, yellow, and brown, who care about unity, order, faith, justice, peace, and equality. I especially thank my Black sisters, fellow peaches, who are involved in this movement to bring love, more love. Love is power. Power to the peaches. Then there are my Black sisters who were born in America as slave ancestors, who care everything about materialism, labels, hair, wigs, nails, and nothing at all about the movement, the legacy, the next generation, and thriving. It has nothing to do with their character and everything to do with the way we are perceived in America. Historically, when we have been told that our hair is ugly and hard, we buy hats and wigs. If we have been told that we are ugly, we buy everything in the beauty supply store, which is rarely owned by another Black woman, to make ourselves pretty and acceptable. If we are told that we are poor, even if we don't own land or property, we spend, spend, spend. Come to my neighborhood or any other hood and see all of the plants, pots, lamps, piggy banks, cars, trucks, bicycles, grills, tires, televisions, motors, boats stacked up in the yards of homes, many of which we do not even own. I remember when the government put trailers on Sugar Ditch Alley in Tunica, Mississippi. Each trailer had at least 3 pretty cars parked in front of it. And historically, whenever we inherit, win, or earn a few dollars, rather than save it or invest it, we spend, spend, spend. This has been an historical trend, but it can change with us and with the next generation. These things, spending, flossing, showboating, etc., are usually done to impress other Black people, especially other Black women, because white people and other people don't know or don't care, and in some cases, Black men and children neither appreciate nor notice it at all until long after we are dead, if ever. This is one reason why people worship Black mothers at their funerals, and sometimes when they are living, i.e., don't say nothing about my mother. Materialism should not define us. Who the blank is Gucci anyway? Labels and nails and wigs do not define us. I have sat in churches where young girls with designer strollers pass their babies from pew to pew throughout the service. It is hard to tell the boys from the girls because most of them have 2 diamond earrings and braids. It is a blessing that they are in church, which in most cases is a positive environment. Women and children are the majority of Black church attendees, and as I described in my doctoral dissertation, prior to the internet and satellite television, it was the center of the Black community. My audience, my fellow peaches. I neither dishonor nor discredit the experiences of other womanists or feminists of color. However, in order to be authentic and in order to articulate my observations and theories as a social scientist in such a way that emancipates, encourages, and inspires my Black slave ancestor sisters, I draw from shared experiences with some of them. They are my audience for this guide. When I refer to they and Black sisters or peaches, I reemphasize the notion that I in no way intend to imply that we, Black, American-born females, are a monolithic group. I think commonality has more to do with values, priorities, and ethics than with racial, physical, historical, cultural, and ethnic similarities. In some instances, I have more in common with some men, white, black, Asian, or some white women than I do with some of my own black sisters. I feel like one of the boys professionally and socially, but I am clearly one of the girls. I have so much in common with Jeff Lewis of Bravo Television's Flipping Out, but would never have the access he has as a white male. I have been in the ministry of social responsibility for over 30 years and in many cases do not have the favor, invitations, and access of black male preacher who was called to the ministry 5 years ago at the age of 70 has, simply because he is male. None of us fits into any archetypal box, but we just have to be ourselves on this journey. Sometimes, as Pocahontas called me, I feel like a foreigner. Greer Marie Dawson Wilson, the director of student activities during my time at Hampton University, gave me a card. The bold black calligraphy on the deep gray envelope read, "To Judi, the first black female president of the United States. I am not tooting my own horn. Each of us is different and God loves us all the same. My point is that we are different. We do not fit into a box." In the preface of the Silver Anniversary collection, Poetry for Peace, Power, and Love, Claudia A. Whitworth, publisher and editor of the Roanoke Tribune, called me a force of nature, like earth, wind, fire, or air. We can all benefit from time in the silence. Although I have found that a solitary life is a blessing to me during certain seasons of my life, we will explore the concept of sisterhood and unity further in this book. We have a unique history, not as immigrants, but as slaves. We have a unique history of former slaves who are now in debt to those who own the buildings, businesses, land, and industries that our ancestors helped to build and establish for free labor. Throughout the South, you will find mansions and buildings with intricate designs which were created, designed, and built by slaves. The only remnant many of our families has is knowing that our ancestors are buried somewhere beneath the acres which were inherited. We live in a context that comes from pain, struggle, and not only hidden figures, but a hidden culture, an erased culture. In many instances, the peaches have been erased. In others, we are at the bottom of the barrel. Although we have been hidden, erased, and debased, individually and collectively, each generation has had black women who have worked tirelessly and earnestly to make things better for the black community, in particular, and America in general. To them and to so many others, I am deeply grateful. When did the movement begin? Black women's movement in early history. Sojourner Truth and Harriet Tubman are some of the most popular names in the women's suffrage movement for freedom and universal suffrage. I am thankful for them and so many others. As you know, we black women have been working individually and collectively through clubs, black Greek organizations, our families, and churches on issues such as voting rights, misogyny, and political representation. The individuals and organizations who support black women continue to make a difference. Mary Church Terrell and Josephine St. Pierre Ruffin founded one of the oldest political groups created for and by black women in 1896, the National Association of Colored Women. The objectives were equal rights, eliminating lynching, and defeating Jim Crow laws. In 1993, I was enlightened and honored when I attended the Black Women in the Academy Defending Our Name conference. The statement of purpose for the conference provides a snapshot of black women's history which is relevant today. In the statement of purpose for that historical conference, you will find these words, and I quote, "In 1894 was a momentous year for African American women, and it was a year that provides strong parallels for the position in which black women in the academy and elsewhere find themselves today. African American women were under attack in many public forums for their supposed immorality, but in 1894 they began to organize to refute a debased image of themselves and their families, and to redefine the prevailing view of true womanhood in a way that included the lived experiences of black women. Paula Giddings typified blacks in America in the 1890s as standing on the brink of a racial precipice, subject to increasing public violence, governmental neglect, and lacking political resources. In 1893, blacks, both male and female, were denied full representation at the Columbian World Exposition held in Chicago. Frederick Douglass organized a Negro Day, held at the very end of the exposition to showcase black achievements, and a handful of leading black women was allowed to address and assemble at the Ladies' Pavilion, but conflict over the appropriate response to this exclusion split black leaders, male and female, along generational lines. Fannie Berrier Williams was one of the black women to address the Ladies' Pavilion meeting. She addressed the true cause for the exclusion of blacks, for she said plainly that the morality of our home life has been commented on so disparagingly and meanly that we are placed in the unfortunate position of being defenders of our name. Williams went on to describe the sexual harassment that she found to be the true cause of black women's sexual degradation, attacking not only the myth of black promiscuity, but the notion that women themselves were wholly responsible for their own victimization. Black women's response to the exposition provided the impetus for the establishment of the Unified Club movement. 1893 was also the year in which Ida B. Wells' anti-lynching campaign became an international movement and began to have its first substantive effects on the level of violence directed at blacks in the South. By 1895, the development of a national movement of African American women had progressed as a National Federation of Afro-American Women was created, uniting 36 black women's clubs in 12 states. Similarly, 1994 provides strong parallels in that, again, blacks find themselves the subjects of increasing public attack on many fronts at the same time that we face what may be the most severe internal crisis in our communities that we have seen since Reconstruction. Black women have come in for a large share of criticism in the form of both open and coded discourse generated by the Anita Hill, Clarence Thomas hearings in 1991, and political discourse produced by electoral campaigns over the course of 1992, largely centered on the issue of welfare reform and family values. These events have generated the most intense public consideration of the character and morality of black women that this country has witnessed since the 1890s. African American women in the academy placed themselves squarely in the center of these debates in 1992 with the formation of the organization African American Women in Defense of Ourselves. The organizers of this conference hope that it will be a public forum of the sort that was denied black women in Chicago in 1893. The conference focuses specifically on black women in the professoriate at all ranks, in all disciplines, from graduate school to the college presidency, end quote. As early as 1917, the National Black Women's Club movement was not participating in the women's auxiliary of men's groups and did not want to be marginalized in the white women's groups. Women in the United States were first able to vote in 1920. However, some blacks faced outrageously unfair tests, physical threats, physical violence, trumped-up charges, poll taxes, unnecessary demands to return to the polls, demeaning treatment, employment/income challenges, and other obstacles which prevented some blacks from voting. As you recall in history, 5 days after the passage of the Voting Rights Act, Los Angeles, the City of Angels, exploded. An altercation between law enforcement and an unarmed black man sparked the riots in Watts. Black people expressed their pain from oppression, weariness from debasement, and substandard poverty-stricken status in a number of ways. Some looted and rioted, while others protested, organized, and put pen to the paper. Segregated housing and schools, unemployment, underemployment, police misconduct, economic oppression, poverty, and second-class citizenship were more than we could bear. We had no homeland, no property, limited education, lack of access, and negative profiling, all in the face of a world which favored white men. We are neither white nor male. As peaches, we are in a class all of our own. Black is beautiful. I am somebody. Black lives matter and black power are all slogans which echo in our culture but have never kept us black women from feeling somewhat powerless and alienated in America. So I call on each of you to accept peach power. Love is power. Power to the peaches. Some say go back to Africa. I have been to North Africa and look forward to traveling throughout Africa, but I have no language, no history there. I have a little brother, Lucky Masilela, from the Hampton University Student Leadership Program who lives in South Africa. Other than that, what do I have to go back to? I am a foreigner here, and I am a foreigner there. That is why I am motivated to believe in myself, and that is why I am motivated to believe in you. The impossible is possible in my life and in your life. The National Council of Negro Women, NCNW, was founded in 1935 by Mary McLeod Bethune. The aim was to improve the quality of life for African American women and families. NCNW continues to reach out through research, advocacy, and social services today. Sometimes we ask ourselves, where do we fit? Neither white women nor black men know exactly what it feels like to be a black woman, where both race and gender are perceived as subdominant and forgotten in America and throughout the world. Director Josephine St. Pierre Ruffin announced at the Boston Convention of the National Association of Colored Women, we are not alienating or withdrawing. We are only coming to the front. Black women have historically had many things in common with the white women's movement. I take my cue from an old HBCU dean who said they might forget they are black, but white people will never forget that they are black, regarding a black girl who associated exclusively with white people and avoided blacks. The Honorable Shirley Chisholm founded the National Political Congress of Black Women in 1994. The organization with chapters nationwide is currently called the National Congress of Black Women. Shirley Chisholm ran as both a black candidate and a woman candidate in the 1972 presidential campaign. In his article, Standing at the Crossroads, W.G. Smoot describes the way Chisholm was shunned by leaders from political establishments she helped to found, the Congressional Black Caucus and the Negro Women's Political Caucus. Black people, male and female, who looked just like she did not want to support her. Here we come full circle to the lack of unity in the black community. Not surprising, thanks to the Willie Lynch brand of slave training, but very dreadful. Dreadful. There are a number of political firsts and organizations which have historically supported women in politics. Black Women Matter Incorporated was founded in 2010. As we briefly discuss women in politics, I remind myself that we can vote to legislate behavior and actions, but we cannot legislate people's motives, desires, and consciences. In 1974, a federal judge ordered integration, busing in Massachusetts, for example. Many of the residents of South Boston protested and threatened and intimidated black students. Although the law called for integration, the people's hearts and thoughts were far from integration. Less than 20 years after the South Boston protests, Carol Moseley Braun in 1993 became the first black woman to be elected to the United States Senate. According to numerous press accounts, Braun became very popular when she became angered at an incumbent Democratic Senator, Alan Dixon's, vote to confirm Clarence Thomas after his 1992 sexual harassment ordeal with Professor Anita Hill. In addition to having a history-making black female presidential candidate and U.S. Senator, we have had a brilliant black, beautiful First Lady who has exemplified grace, elegance, eloquence, and intelligence. While on the campaign trail in 2016 for then presidential candidate Hillary Clinton, Michelle Obama gave the speech of a lifetime, which the mainline media nearly overlooked. I have always seen life through rose-colored glasses, so I am optimistic and believe God for the best. I do not believe that either race or gender should be an impediment to greatness, happiness, self-awareness, and self-love. As an 11-year-old in 1976, I gave a speech on the Equal Rights Amendment, which was inspired by the mainline women's movement. Due in part to the theories presented in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, both the black women's clubs and the white women's clubs had a membership which consisted mostly of upwardly mobile Protestant women. Neither group questioned the superiority of the middle class values or way of life, or had any romantic notions of the inherent nobility of the poor, uneducated masses. Education and material progress were values that black and white women shared. Both also believed in the importance of the house and the women's moral influence within it. Black and white women saw the family as a microcosm and cornerstone of society. This notion of the women's moral influence on the home is critical in society today. Although a number of homes where a male is the primary attachment figure has increased in America, the majority of black children have a black female as their primary attachment figure. When the mother, a woman, is disrespected, paid lower wages, stereotyped, placed in competition with other women who look just like her, white and other races are not concerned, faces poverty, deals with health and financial challenges, deals with heartbreak and or abuse, she is often in a position to push her feelings aside in order to survive. In some cases, there is some cognitive dissonance where you can love someone like the abuser or the abuse of society and still know that what they did or do is wrong. Let me repeat that. In some cases, there is some cognitive dissonance where you can love someone like the abuser or an abusive society and still know that what they did or what they do is wrong. As I often say, some people are doing well just putting on their clothes in the morning. I pray that this book will bring hope and joy to the hopeless and inspiration to each of us. No matter what you are going through, thrive on. I am reminded of Ntozake Shange's 1974 poem for colored girls who considered suicide when the rainbow is enough. No more contemplating suicide. We have got to keep our heads up. Today is a new day. We can thrive one day at a time. Quite naturally, due to cultural, racial, and economic reasons, there were and continue to be distinct differences between black and white women, womanists and feminists, subdominants and dominants. Both white and black women want to help the poor and believe in what psychiatrists present as self-actualization. We come full circle back to Maslow's hierarchy. Historically, women identify themselves in terms of their relationships, whereas men identify themselves with regard to what they do, their position or job function. With self-actualization, women seek to be included in professional circles rather than only influencing the home. In other words, we don't want to just be, we want to do. 2017 Women's March, one response to the results of the 2016 United States presidential election. After the election of President Donald Trump in 2016, the entire country stood as a symbol of tolerance for the violation of women's rights, voice, dignity, and anti-objectificationism. As you and all of the world well knows, in response to the election of Donald Trump, womanists and feminists, along with those who were alarmed, felt harm, and were disgruntled from other groups from around the world, erupted in protests and marches in March of 2017. In Washington, D.C., small and large cities throughout North America and the world, feminists and womanists of all ethnicities, races, ages, genders, and political affiliations made their voices heard. Where were some black women during the protests in 2017? After the election and Women's March, I had so many of your beautiful calls and urgent prayer requests on my then nearly 10-year-old prayer line that for several months God gave me a vision to pray live on social media. I began a 5 at 5 prayer on Facebook Live, and I continued to work on this beloved and very necessary project, which will be here long after we have transcended into heaven. Although we need neither a televised prayer nor a book to assist us in this long, sometimes bitter, but always beautiful journey for peace, there is a season for everything. I discontinued the filming of my prayers primarily because I wanted to pray even more fervently and frequently in my personal prayer closet. The mascurum, or remembrance bringers, reminded me of the scripture in the New Testament book of Matthew, chapter 6, verses 5 and 6, when our Lord Jesus Christ said, "But when you pray, do not be like hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the street corners to be seen by men. I tell you the truth, they have received their reward in full. When you pray, go into your room, close the door, and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you." Although I have discontinued my live prayers and my prayer request line and not been to any marches recently, I march and believe that with God's grace and direction, I move mountains with my prayers, my heart, and my pen or my keystrokes. And this was published in 2018 as an aside. I do have a prayer line where you can leave a voice prayer request or text a prayer request. And that's area code 540-759-4279. I'll put it down in the description. I think in my sanctified, optimistic, rose-colored imagination that most black women were in the same place during the 2017 Women's March as they were during the marches for climate change, pipeline solutions, and voters' rights, trying to survive and feel at home in a country that has never welcomed, respected, honored, nor protected us. To be honest, aside from the more upwardly mobile northern black women and those from some areas of the West Coast, many of us / them were busy, as one Roanoke, Virginia woman said, trying to get money to pay her bills. Destiny's Child song Bills, Bills, Bills developed a cult-like following of black women who neither inherited nor were favored with money, property, or America's idea of beauty. Blonde, blue eyes, size 0. Unlike those who have the security and comfort of mailbox money, old money, or family money, many of us peaches have a quasi-preoccupation with having our financial and material needs met. Many of us black American-born slave ancestor women are working tirelessly and earnestly to get through the day or month or year or season. What are your thoughts here? I am a student and a teacher. Let's reflect together. Put your thoughts in the comment section so we can hear from each other. What are your thoughts here? I am a student and teacher. Let's reflect together. Black women showed up in northern states and the West Coast in record numbers. However, throughout the South and in less upwardly mobile pockets of America, many questioned the reasons for what looked like apathy. Why did more Southern black women organize and march? First and foremost, some let their lives do the singing. After all of the marching and singing and protesting is over, we have to do something. Some who we will never see are busy doing the movement. Second, Some have come to the understanding that women who have been and always will be, some have come to the understanding that women have been and will be debased regardless, and feel as if protesting would be a waste of time. Third, if we go back to Maslow's hierarchy, some women were trying to figure where they were going to live, how they were going to pay their electric, daycare, and cell phone bills. Someone somewhere was trying to order a wheelchair for their child who didn't get enough oxygen during birth because perhaps the hospital did not want to perform a C-section on an uninsured, dark-skinned, young, unmarried girl with nappy pubic hair, dirty feet, and having no one with transportation to accompany her to follow the ambulance. Then when she gets the wheelchair, since she has neither a car nor a valid driver's license, she has to arrange with the school to pick the child up in the newly acquired wheelchair. Like other races and genders, some of us black women can neither function, protest, survive, nor thrive because of personal problems. Everyone has problems. However, we do not have to become paralyzed by our own personal problems. Whether it is fibroids, finances, food, friends, family, faith, fashion, or fighting, we cannot not allow our challenges to distract us from perfect peace and fulfilling our goals. We can miss our best if we are distracted by the cares of this world and mismanage our time. Although some of us did not show up at the Women's March, I am thankful for the leadership of Sister Farrah Tannis, curator, critical futurist, and executive director of the Black Women's Blueprint, for organizing the September 30th, 2017 March for Black Women, and for the important work she and her team are doing to help us move forward. And we're going to stop here. This is the end of part 3 of chapter 1 from Peaches, Womanist Thoughts on Finding Peace, Overcoming Peril, and Tapping Power. And remember, my friends, love is power. Power to the peaches. Peach power. Until next time, the Lord bless you and keep you. Make his face shine upon you. Be gracious unto you and give you peace, power, and love. More love. Boost.